was caused that big fire up in Minnesota, wasn't that just last year?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, Norfolk, yep.
They just had one in South Sioux too. last year.
Some of the things you wouldn't think of, as solid materials that can engulf you, causing suffocation and or crushing injuries. Just remember situations where we might get called to, where we might have soil or dirt, sand or gravel. We get to some of these construction people that are digging in the dirt, and they don't have their forms down there. Sometimes those trenches cave away, and we end up crushing somebody. So that's just another one that you wouldn't think of, but it's there. We have to also watch out for large containers of grain, powdered substance, flowing solids. Okay, what usually happens if somebody's in the top of a cream bin?
They end up at the bottom.
They end up at the bottom because something's taking it out of the bottom, or something like that. How many's got the kits to get people out of green bins? Has everybody got? They were giving them away, so I'm hoping everybody's got one by now. So, but just remember that stuff can be just as hazardous. Just remember your solid containers may have open tops or may be covered with tarps or plastic. We have V-shaped slopes on the sides with the bottom outlets, so we got to make sure that nobody's in there when we're emptying that out, because it'll take them right down through the bottom. Dust can kill you, just remember that. Solid materials can engulf you and kill you too. Okay, radioactive materials shipped in one of 5 basic container types. Five basic types of containers listed from least radioactive hazard to the greatest. Accepted, only used to transport of material with very low levels of radioactivity. Then we have the industrial. That's the container that retains and protects contents during normal transportation activities, such as laboratory samples. And where else do we have radioactivity in our house?
Microwave.
Plus, what else? Something you ain't even gonna think of, probably.
Bananas.
Huh?
Bananas.
Bananas.
They have potassium. They're radioactive.
Potassium, yeah, okay. I'll give you that one. Who's ever looked at a smoke detector? Yeah, there's radioactive material in there, so just remember, you do have it in your house. You should have it in your house.
Gas lanterns do too, like propane lanterns.
Oh yeah?
The little deal that burns on the gas burns in that makes it glow.
Okay.
Yeah, when you open the package, it says right on there, it's made of radio.
Yes, I never looked at those.
Some of your scopes and sights will have them on too. Tritium.
Okay, see, so we're getting more than we know, huh? Okay. Type A, that's packages that must demonstrate ability to withstand a series of tests without releasing contents. And type B is packages most demonstrate ability to withstand tests simulated normal shipping conditions and must withstand several accidental conditions without releasing. And then type C is a very rare package used for high activity material. That's where your plutonium will be in. It'll be in your type C.
See what it is in the testing. Big real colors. It's freaking cool.
There's your type B packaging. Yeah, I took a class one time and they showed these radioactive containers that they would actually put stuff, well, they wouldn't put the real stuff in, but they would put something in there so they could test it, and they would actually like run a train into it and stuff like that, and some of them wouldn't even open up. And so, actually, that made me feel pretty safe that they're transporting some of this stuff, but, you know, if you can't open it up with a train hitting it, I guess, you know. Radiation travels in all directions for long directions, or long distances. Okay. Oh, here we go. How many have pipelines? Hazardous material, particularly petroleum, transported across both U.S. and Canada in underground pipelines. They transport liquids or gases. Where the pipeline crosses under or over roads, railroads, waterways, pipeline companies must provide markers. So every time you see them come out of the ground, there's got to be a marker there. Okay? Remember what's on the marker? How many's had the pipeline classes? It's got to be the name of the company, the number, and the product. Isn't that the three things that are on it?
I think so.
I think that's what's on it. It's got to be. I know the telephone number has to be on there. Now, just because that is there, does that mean that pipeline is exactly underneath there? No, there's so many feet either way it can be. Yeah, it's pretty nice to know where your pipelines are. Okay. Don't assume that the pipeline runs underneath. The last one I went to, they had a guy that was out flying, and he seen this tractor. They eyeballed and thought the pipeline went straight because the markers, and they're out there ripping up this field. And this guy got a hold of somebody on the radio and sent this guy out there right away, and he stopped him, and he made like 4 or 5 passes around this field. He hit that pipeline 6 times. Never ripped it open. Never ripped it open, but he hit it 6 times. So, see, there's the number, the company, and what's in it. Petroleum pipeline, hydrogen pipeline. Okay, they're going to identify high pressure materials. Do we shut valves off for pipelines? We got a problem in the middle. The pipeline companies shut that off. Because we don't know what it'll do if we shut one off. So it's up to them to shut it off. And it might flow for a long time. Depends on how much pressure it's under. So, and yes, we do have pipelines in residential neighborhoods. Okay? What's the one you can think of right off? Natural gas. Okay? So you wasn't one of the big petroleum people, didn't they have a pipeline underneath some residential property in Minneapolis? Because didn't they have an explosion up there? I think they did.
Yeah.
So you gotta watch where those pipelines are. Know where they are in your area. Marine vessels transport 90% of the world's cargo. Hazardous material incidents involving vessels can be minor, such as a small spill at the port during loading or unloading, can be major, such as a spill contaminating miles of river or coastline. Some of the vessels we have are tankers. May transport very large quantities of liquid product. often carry different products in segregated tanks. 3 tanker types of petroleum carriers transport crude or finished petroleum products. Chemical carriers carry different chemicals. And there's also liquefied flammable gas carriers that transport liquefied natural gas. Okay? 4 types of cargo vessels: bulk carriers, break bulk carriers. The break bulk ones, they may transport a variety of materials such as pallets, drums, bags, boxes, crates. There's container vessels, transport cargo, standard intermodal containers, standard width, varying heights and lengths. There's roll-on, roll-off vessels. They have larger stern, side ramp structures that lower to allow the vehicle to be driven on and off the vessel. There's barges. We don't have too many barges here, but you get over to the river, you probably see a lot of them going up and down the rivers. They can get up and down the river where larger vessels can't. Usually they're towing or pushing a vessel. Virtually anything can be transported on the barge. Confined spaces in vessels can contain oxygen deficient atmospheres that can cause asphyxiation. So that can happen with anything that has a confined space. Even a rail car when it's empty, unless it's a boxcar, if it's a liquid in there, that's always considered dangerous. Unit loaded devices. This is how they go into airplanes. They're pallets, consolidated air cargo into a single transported unit. It's designed and shaped to fit into the airplane. Hazardous materials may be shipped, provided they are in accordance with the government regulations. Yeah, military aircraft and transport vehicles, helicopters. Okay, yeah. So we got a half an hour yet. I'm gonna make it through this one. Now, all the stuff we just went through, how does that fit into awareness?
What to look for.
Basically what to look for. Other than that, if you know what you're looking at, I guess you can kind of tell what needs to be done. So you can actually figure out the system that you're going to use to end the incident. Okay, we got placards and we got labels. The US, Canada, Mexico, they use placarding labels, marking systems. All 3 countries use the same source for their system, transport of dangerous goods. And what we do when we put placards and labels on, what we're trying to do is identify the hazardous materials. Whatever's being transported. And like I say, it's good in all 3 countries. Transportation placards are designed for bulk packages Labels, placards look similar. They have the same information on them. Okay, this is gonna start getting us into the book. We'll probably do that Saturday. This is the UN system that designated the 9 hazard classes. Class 1 is explosives. Class 2 is gases. Class 3 is flammable liquids. 4 is flammable solids, substance just liable to spontaneous combustion. Class 5 is oxidizers. 6 is toxic and infectious. 7 is radioactive, and 8 is corrosive. And 9 is our famous one. If you can't find a spot that fits one of the other ones, you use class 9. It's dangerous. Okay? When you see a truck going down the road with dangerous, it doesn't fit any other placard, so that's why they put dangerous on it. We'll get into the 4-digit UN ID numbers. They're going to be displayed on the bulk containers. You see these, all three are all red, but they're all class C. So they say flammable, and then it gives a, I don't want to get into that book tonight. But anyway, it gives a 4-digit number. That's what we'll look up in the book, and we'll know what it is. But one thing about it, if you don't know what it is, if you see red, what do you know? It's flammable, okay? Okay, in North America, numbers must be displayed on the following containers or packages: rail tank cars, portable tanks, bulk packages, table 1 materials regardless of quantity. Okay, emergency response guidebook, that's what we're going to get into first thing Saturday. Provides the key to the 4-digit identification number. That's in the yellow boarded section. The 4-digit number is identified first. Responder can use the ERG to determine what it is. Okay, so if you can see that 4-digit number, that's great. What if you got a name instead of a 4-digit number?
Even better.
Then the next section, the first section is numbers in order, the next section is alphabetical. Okay? Okay, this is going to tell us a little bit about our placards, how to identify them. You're going to have different colored ones with 4-digit numbers in there. You're going to have your hazard class. They're diamond shaped. They're hazard symbols up there. And they're all 10.8 inches on each side. Okay, if nothing else, just like I said, learn the colors. If you see an orange one, it's going to be explosives. A yellow one's anything reactive or an oxidizer. A red one's flammable. White's going to be either poisonous or corrosive, something with a health problem. Blue is water reactive. And you do see a few green ones out there. That's a non-flammable gas. Okay? We put the placards on bulk packages, rail car tanks, cargo tanks, portable tanks. Sometimes we'll see some kind of container that might have more than one placard on it. That indicates that we might have at least 2 hazardous materials, whatever's in the container, whether it's a semi or whatever. I seen a semi going down the road the other day with it was either 7 or 8 of them on there. Like, what the heck's that good's that gonna do you if it's piled up somewhere? But you at least have no, whether or not they react together, that's where you get the specialists in there, but they're always there, so. We told them, they said they always put them on the 3 sides, they ought to put one on the bottom, cause where the truck usually land. Usually laying on the side, so you can see it better if it's on the bottom, but we haven't got that one yet, so. Sometimes we have improperly marked containers. We might have some that are unmarked. Okay, otherwise illegal shipments are common. Incompatible products. Might be some type of waste products that's shipped in for disposal. They don't have a permit, so they don't have a placard on them. And then also, you gotta remember that placards aren't required for shipments with infectious substances, other regulated materials, for domestic transport only, materials of trade, limited quantities, small quantities, combustible liquids, bulk packages and non-bulk packages. Military has, what do they have? Military has a different one. May not have placards even though they're carrying sufficient quantities. Hazard classes and division numbers corresponding to private or hazard classes of materials may be displayed in the lower corner of the placard. So the military might not placard all theirs the same as ours. I suppose there's a reason for that?
Yeah,
What do you think?
they got the good shit.
They got the good stuff. They got the good stuff, and they want the good stuff to get there. So I suppose that has something to do with it. Like I said, if you see a truck with dangerous placard on it, that definitely means there's a mixed load. So, it's got 2 or more categories of hazardous materials, but you don't have to placard each one, but a mixed load, so you don't know what it's gonna do, so that's where the dangerous one goes. Labels. Labels are 3.9 inches square on the point of diamonds. They're just like the placards, only smaller. Labels are on they're on like the drums and stuff like that. So we'll be shipping them on drums, boxes. May or may not have written text to identify the hazardous material. Anytime it's class 7 radioactive labels must always contain text, so we need to know what kind of radioactive material's in there. Most labels for 9 hazard classes subdivisions. Packages with more than one label have more than one hazard or product. Contains primary labels, subsidiary labels. Cargo aircraft only, labels in there. It's not really associated with any particular hazard class, but it's just that it can't go onto a passenger aircraft. It has to go onto a freight aircraft. You guys always go to 10 o'clock?
If you don't want to. No, really.
Well, I'd really like to get into the book, but with
I don't think you can.
with 15 minutes left, I can't really pass out the books. And
Sounds like a good place to stop.
should we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get the books out a little bit and read that stuff, okay?
What's going on?